The only thing I have to say about Brexit the vote or Brexit the act is that I'm not the least bit surprised. And it's because of all the business I've been seeing Britain do with the US. So we'll get down to pinpointing exactly what this means by the end of the video. But what I can't not talk about is the murder of Jo Cox, which took place on June 16th, 2016. A member of Parliament, as you all know, the mother of two small children, rather young. I think she was, 41 years old. I'm 35, so that sort of hit close to home for me. Besides that, I didn't come here to get emotional about it. I just wanted to give you some of the data. In order to determine whether or not the assassination was planned, I look for a pattern first thing. To show you all how simple this is on a certain level, I'm just going through a very basic Google search. I started with her name, and now I'm going to search her name and murder scene. And here's the first result, which we can assume is the most important. Besides this article being the first result, there were some other clues that told me that this article was very important. Those are clues you'll find here on picture 8. And you'll also want to take note that it does say Getty under that picture. You are like plotting coordinates, and you can manipulate this science to leave clues if you want to leave a certain type of signature. A lot of these things have sort of been trivialized in movies and all that, but you have to understand that those are Hollywood movies most likely you're thinking about, and those are basically made by the CIA. So yeah, that's what they do, is they just mess with your mind. So you'll notice here that it says Armitage. And so let's just stop there. I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole a little further. Google Armitage and June 16th. So that's Armitage, where you're seeing on this image. It's the final picture, so it's, it's sort of secretive. You're mostly concerned with the pictures that show, her belongings on the ground and things like that. So you might not even get to this last picture. But you see it, it's a very clear name. That I went to the street view to make sure that that's what I was reading. Well, here's one of the first things. That was a Coca-Cola ad. Here's the library. And by this point, you're probably somewhat familiar with the area. Here's that picture from heavy.com. Here we are at the street view again. You can see the bus stop. There's even a bus right there, which is kind of handy. And yes, on that final picture, which is probably worth millions of dollars because we saw that name Getty underneath, we've got this clue here, and it says Armitage. Back to what I was saying, when you Google Armitage and June 16th, 2016, this is what you're going to find, this article at Politico. Continuing with the pattern, we see Getty under this picture. That result leads you to this exclusive report that Richard Armitage has backed Hillary Clinton over Trump. And because that was the name of the murder scene, I put in Hillary Clinton's name and Jo Cox, and that led me to another article at Politico, which is not the first result, but it's one of the first. And of course, while we're finding all of these clues, we may be asking ourselves, why Jo Cox? Is there a chance she represents something that Hillary Clinton stands for? The answers you might find at thewhitehouse.gov. Because I've been paying attention and I knew where to look, this is what I found. What may surprise you, though, is I knew where to look because of a blog I'm writing called The Atlanta Connection. And something I've been doing for the Atlanta Connection is collecting some of the AJC newspapers. That's our local newspaper. And I've got a few here. This is from the Orlando shooting around that time. This is Muhammad Ali's death, which was June 3rd. And then here are the other ones. Now, I've analyzed this newspaper. The newspaper is the weekend that was honoring Muhammad Ali, and I'll probably post those in its own video. But I wanted to show you here. This is from Friday, June 10th. Stina Grimmie is in my Atlanta Connection file, so that June 10th, that is the day that she was shot. Here you're going to see this ad. So considering that it was June 10th, let's go to the paper that's on June 19th. And I knew I needed to just put out the Atlanta Connection because they've got this article here called Linked by Tragedy. But I want to show you how this relates to Hillary and then how that relates to the banks. So this was for Orlando. Now on the other side of this, right there, boom. I didn't really have to work too hard. Okay, this is about Jo Cox. So yes, it's Atlanta Connection. It does happen to be on the very back of this. Okay, and the actual proximity of the stories matters. And I'm going to talk about more of the papers around this time because Obama's doing a lot of things to increase the military pressure over in Central Asia and the Middle East. If anyone was wondering why I ever hashtag don't vote 2016, well, I wrote that in there when I found this, which is, okay, like I said, this is the paper to commemorate Orlando because we've got all the victims and pictures in here. You'll see. So it's a very big spread. And yes, on the page that has a picture of Hillary Clinton, we've got yet another. Now what you're going to notice there is that it says Novartis. Okay? And this is how we know it's a US-UK related to the bank's operation, because they're in my folder, which is here. JP Morgan Security. Well, there's Myriad Genetics, which those are the people responsible for Angelina Jolie's surgery, and they actually own a patent on her genes, something like that. But Novartis is on this page. JP Morgan currently has or had within the past 12 months the following companies as clients. Client and investment banking with JP Morgan. I underlined that. The reason why all of that matters goes back to an interview that was on Coast to Coast AM. Well, he calls himself V, but he's an expert when it comes to the financial world. And you can listen to that interview if you're interested at my other channel, which is the Universe City. I recommend you do listen to the whole interview, and I'm just going to play a little bit to create a frame of reference here.
Wow, a little over 20. We have so far about 8 guys that are confirmed dead. Okay, the latest one being this gentleman Lee, who is a junior investment banker, who is linked to the Forex market, who slipped on a banana peel and fell off the Hong Kong JP Morgan headquarters. There is a connection between Lee, also the fact between Ryan Crane, which is the gentleman from Connecticut who mysteriously died in his home, as well as Gabriel McGee. That's the first JP Morgan guy that, was, he was walking and all of a sudden he fell out of the 33rd floor all by himself. And, 33rd floor is, kind of, anybody who looks at the numbers, that's kind of a flag right there.
It sure is.
The thing about McGee and Ryan is this. Here's the thing. When you look at Ryan, I'm going to get into these JP Morgan guys right off the bat.
Okay.
When you look at Ryan Crane, the man was in charge of platform trading. Okay? He was in charge of all trade platforms. He knows the program. He knows it in and out. And one thing, when I worked for a UK bank, okay, and I headed up one of the divisions over here in the U.S., we were in constant communication with London.
So that's just the end of part 1. I'm going to go ahead and draw all the conclusions because I need to show you these documents. And that relates to what Jo Cox was saying during her last days alive. And then also how this relates to the UK and Brexit and the stock market. These are like materials that I've shown you in other videos. And yes, if we're going back to that name Armitage, so this is just a little bit of what we're going to go over. In part 2. Thank you for watching. I hope that you'll get the whole story, and in order to do that you need to watch part 2. Go ahead and subscribe so that you can get updates, and you'll be surprised about what these assassinations say about our world and some of the legislation that it has passed recently, will pass, is passing, those kinds of things. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Have a blessed day. It's never too late to tell the truth. Here's a little clip from the video I'm going to release about Prince this month. I'll put a link for my blog called The Atlanta Connection in the description, so go ahead and check that out. And I'll see you for part 2, which I'm posting on July 7th, most likely. If not, it's going to be July 8th. But stay tuned because I'm going to draw some conclusions that you definitely want to hear. Thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up.
Conflict. I understand that the Commission on Justice and Accountability, which is funded by both the UK and the US governments, has evidence to link abuses to the highest level in the Syrian state. Whilst I am a huge fan of President Obama, and indeed worked for him in North Carolina in 2008,
through to justify programs that have never been shown to keep us safe, but cost us liberties and freedoms that we don't need to give up.